experienced an epiphany, not quite religious, but as close to religious as I'm ever going to have, at an event called Foo Camp. It was an event put on by Tim O'Reilly and his crowd, very much of an inside Silicon Valley event. This event took place in 2004. I went into the event. It was in Sebastopol in O'Reilly headquarters as a believer in the whole Web 2.0, interactive, community, conversation, blah, blah, blah. And I came out as a skeptic. I really just, it suddenly dawned on me that most of this stuff was nonsense. In particular, the cult of democratization. I went into this event. It was a load of wealthy Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and technologists camping out over the weekend in Sebastopol. Wealthy guys sitting in tents talking about democratization. And after a couple of days of that, I thought I was a tolerant fellow, but clearly I wasn't. I'd really had enough. And I came out an unbeliever. So in a weekend, I had my road to Catalonia. I had my experience, my eye-opening experience in which the truth of Web 2.0, or the lack of truth of 2.0, was revealed to me. And since then, I've become a rather naughtily outspoken person against Web 2.0, democratization, community, conversation, and all the other phraseology of this movement.
The Web 2.0 is such a what they call disruptive social phenomenon, and it's such a big global revolution, and this will forever change the way we see things. And why doesn't anybody else but you stop to say, well, hang on, wait a minute, I'm not sure we want that.
I have a high opinion of myself, but I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm the only person saying it. Firstly, there are other people within the technology community who are saying it. Nicholas Carr, whose excellent blog, Rough Type, is a very important voice. Indeed, the term cult of the amateur is one that I borrowed from him, so I do a little bit of my own remixing in this operation. What's interesting is there aren't that many critics within technology, but outside technology, there are. Last weekend I was in New York at the Personal Democracy Forum event. I heard Tom Friedman, the New York Times columnist, speak very passionately against the democratizing consequences of Web 2.0. Many mainstream journalists, particularly in Europe, are critical. Habermas, the German social theorist, is critical. So most of the criticism of Web 2.0 is coming from the outside, from academics, from writers, novelists, filmmakers, social critics. The technologists are a little way behind. They always think they're in front, but of course those who think they're in front are actually behind.
Yeah, probably it's the first time they've ever read a book as well. Sorry, that's just my opinion.
You mean my book? I don't think they'll read my book. They've decided my book is only worthy for toilet paper. So no, these people aren't readers. And one shouldn't sort of underestimate them. They're smart in their own way, but they're not very good with words.
Okay, so. One of the speakers here on Cultuur 2.0 is Charlie Ledbetter, and he tried to convince us, actually just now, that this 2.0 stuff is innovation by the masses, not just for the masses and masses, and that, it's all for the better.
Well, a little bird told me that the guys at your conference all speak like Larry Lessig, but have the souls of Louis XIV. So I'm not sure what kind of job Ledbetter did. Of course, it's ironic that here is the spokesperson for the virtual presenting physically, and here I am, the traditionalist, speaking virtually. So I don't think I'll probably do quite as good a job as Charlie, because I'm only virtual. I'm not really physically involved in your event. I wish I was there. I will be, of course, in Amsterdam for the cross-media event at the end of September, so I'll look forward to meeting everyone in the room then. Please, everybody look me up before then. It's hard for me to know exactly what Charlie is saying. I think he is one of the most articulate and interesting voices of democratization and Web 2.0 in Europe. My guess is he's a little bit more civilized than the radicals here, a little bit more erudite, better read, and a little bit more realistic about the potential of this movement. But he is still an idealist. He's someone who believes that technology can reform us. I see technology as a mirror. When we look at the internet, when we look at either Web 1.0 or 1. Or 2.0 or 3.0, whatever other O's we're going to come up with, all we're doing is looking at ourselves. And when we look at ourselves on the internet, we're seeing something historical, not something new. Somebody did an interesting review of an early review of my book in the Canadian newspaper, the Toronto Star, and they began by saying that having read my book, it reminded them of 1979 again, and the debates between McLuhan and Christopher Lasch. I think the debate that Web 2.0 is sparking between people like Charlie and myself is really, again, a remix, an action replay of the debates between the cultural critics of late capitalism, people like Lasch and Daniel Bale, and the free market radicals, people like McLuhan. And of course, the history of this cultural conversation goes back before McLuhan and Lasch. It goes back to the Frankfurt School and the other sort of interpreters of Marx who attempted to incorporate Marx's ideas in culture and in criticism. I'm not sure if there's an Animal Farm going on. There may be a 1984 going on. In his famous book, Amusing Ourselves to Death, Neil Postman begins by saying, are we entering the reality of Huxley's Brave New World or Orwell's 1984? And he decides that it's Huxley's Brave New World. I'm not actually convinced. I think the problem with Web 2.0 is it actually represents the fruition both of Huxley and Orwell. You have the inanity of Huxley's Brave New World in the blogosphere, in what I call the digital narcissism of all this user-generated content. And on the other hand, and in perhaps a more troubling way, and I dedicate a whole chapter to this in my book, which I entitle 1984 2.0, you have the rise of Google and its massive knowledge of us. Eric Schmidt was in the newspapers last week talking about his vision in 5 years of Google being able to tell us what we want to do tomorrow or what job we want to do tomorrow. So Web 2.0 in that sense is trying to know us better than we know ourselves. And that really is a truly scary consequence. In Orwell's 1984, the state owned the camera, the state had the eye, the state was watching us. The problem in Web 2.0 or 1984 2.0 is everybody knows everything about everyone. And that really is a scary consequence. I think one of the most realistic consequences of all this is a truly democratized Wikipedia where everyone has an entry, and those entries are increasingly intimate. My neighbor is telling the world what TV I watch or how many times I have a cup of tea every day. The traditional media system, I think, has done a reasonably good job. It's not perfect, but nonetheless a reasonably good job. And Web 2.0 does a terrible job. Absolutely appalling job. There may be people with talent out there, but as all these Web 2.0 entrepreneurs are finding, the real challenge is figuring out how to find the small amount of talent within this ocean, this eruption of user-generated content. And ultimately, we're going to have to go back to the old system. We're going to have to go back to agents and editors and all the other individuals who are able to find and refine talent. Because that's the key to any kind of media or entertainment ecosystem.
This audience here. This is what they have been doing for a lifetime. So
yeah, well, they're the heroes. I mean, I'm getting so much.
I'm very happy with you saying this.
Right. Well, I hope I can keep their. I mean, I can't guarantee that they'll keep their jobs, but I've had such a sort of an avalanche of positive response from editors and literary agents and people within Hollywood, people who are often, they may be rewarded financially, but they're really unheralded. And in the United States, given its libertarian culture, big media has become this very convenient punch bag, second only probably to politicians and the state. And whether you're on the left or on the right, whether you're idealizing individual freedom or the freedom of the market, media has become this thing which everyone criticizes, and it's really dangerous. I mean, the really scary thing about all this is in 25 or 50 years, if all these trends continue and people don't fight back against the nonsense of the democratizers, then we really are going to be left without a mainstream media, without newspapers, without a movie business, without a recorded music industry. That's really what's scary, and we may look back at the last part of the 20th century and view it as a profoundly golden age in the history of content and news. In the same way, perhaps, as the Dutch guys in the room look back at the 17th century in Holland as a golden age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing is forever. As I don't need to tell Europeans that, but sometimes Americans need to be reminded of that.
Just one point.
Is it hard to, I've always understood it's hard to make Dutch people happy, so I'm pleased I've made you happy.
Maybe we can make you happy. This is just one last question.
Buy my book. Buy my book. That made me happy.
I've read it. I like your book, but can you tell us why the audience should buy your latest book?
I think they should buy it because, well, there's nothing in the book that anyone in your audience probably hasn't thought about. What's interesting about the book is it brings together a lot of themes which haven't naturally or normally been tied together. It's a provocation. It represents the beginning of a conversation rather than an end. I wish I could be with you today because I love Amsterdam and I will be at the Cross Media event. But what the book is designed to do is open a more serious social, economic, philosophical and political discussion about Web 2.0. Like it or not, technology is changing the world. It's become the thing in itself. It's become the main act. It's changing politics, changing culture, changing the entertainment and information industries. And unless one is a techno-determinist and simply says, well, what will be, and technology will change the world, if you believe in human agency, which I strongly do, then humans themselves need to shape the future of technology. And we need to address both the good and the bad things about Web 2.0 and really confront them honestly and critically and then move on. And I think that my book will prove to be one of the beginnings of that conversation. And that's why I encourage people to read it and enjoy it and be provoked by it.
Wow. That's so well put, so well put. I'd like to thank you very, very, very much for this interview.
Oh, thank you.
It certainly gives a completely different outlook, I guess, on what we've been doing so far.
Yeah, and this is traditional media. This is two informed people talking to one another. And I think that this is what we want to encourage. No user-generated content here.
Well, see you at the picnic, Andrew.
Yeah, I'll see you all. And my email, by the way, is AK, the letters A and K, at aftertv, AFTERTV.com. And I would love it if people would send me emails and tell me how wrong I am.
I will point them to your blog, Andrew.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian. Good luck with the event. Have fun.